Welcome to my meditation. I hope that you'll stay with me this morning as I contemplate what it's like to be a human in this world at this time, how there's so many different viewpoints, and how we react to those different viewpoints. Oftentimes, we find ourselves surrounded by people who think similar to us. We sort of reduce our circle to those people who agree with us and think the same. And we avoid having conversations with friends or family members when we know that there's probably going to be some disagreement. So it's my hope today to be able to talk about a Lenten practice that I'm trying to engage in and would love to engage in all year round. And it's about getting to know how people came to where they are. One of my favorite parables, written by a man that some of you may know, Dr. Seuss. He wrote the book, the story, The Sneetches. And I'm just going to go through a few pieces of that because I'm assuming some of us who are watching this have had some familiarity with Dr. Seuss and the Sneetches. This starts out, now the star-belly Sneetches had bellies with stars. The plain-belly Sneetches had none upon theirs. Those stars weren't so big, they were really so small. You might think such a thing wouldn't matter at all. And as I looked at the picture, really, you can see that star is so small, it shouldn't matter at all. But because they had stars, all the star-belly Sneetches would brag. We're the best kinds of Sneetches on the beaches. With their snoots in the air, they would sniff and they'd snort. We'd have nothing to do with the plain-belly sort. And whenever they met some, when they were out walking, they'd hike right on past them without even talking. What could they have learned if they had talked to those Sneetches who didn't have stars on theirs? If they had asked, how does it feel to be a Sneetch without a star? How does it feel when we snub you and put our nose up in the air when we're walking by you on the beach? How has it felt all these years to be a Sneetch without a star? What do you think? So when the star-belly children went out to play ball, could a plain belly get in the game? Not at all. You could only play if your bellies had stars, and the plain belly children had none upon theirs. I wonder what it was like for those plain belly children to grow up not being able to play with others, being told that they weren't good enough. What would do that to that? How would that affect them for the rest of their lives? And when the star-belly Sneetches had frankfurter roasts or picnics or parties or marshmallow toasts, they never invited the plain-belly Sneetches. They left them out cold in the dark of the beaches. They kept them away, never let them come near, and that's how they treated them year after year. So where did the star-bellied Sneetches get the message that the plain-belly Sneetches were not to be communed with, that they couldn't be on the same beach? Where did this message come from? Who told them that? I would want to ask them, what was that like for you knowing that there were people who couldn't be on the beach with you? How did you get to that point? Were there some people without stars that you really wanted to get to know, but there were people around you who said, oh no, they don't have stars on theirs? So, but then one day, it seems, while the plain belly Sneetches were moping and doping alone on the beaches, just sitting there wishing their bellies had stars, a stranger zipped up in the strangest of cars, and he said, my friends, he announced, voice and clear and keen, my name is Sylvester McMonkey McBean, and I've heard of your troubles, I've heard you're unhappy, but I can fix that, I'm the fix-it-up chappy. I'm come here to help you, I have what you need, and my prices are low, and I work at great speed. and my work is 100% guaranteed. So then quickly Sylvester McMonkey McBean put together a very peculiar machine, and he said, "You want stars like a starbelly sneetch? My friends, you can have them for $3 each. Just pay me your money and hop right aboard." So they clambered inside, and then the big machine roared, and it clonked and it bonked and it jerked and it burked and it bopped them around, but the thing really worked. When the plain Billy Sneetches popped out, they had stars. They actually did. They had stars upon bars, and there's that big old machine that put the stars upon bars. So we know what happened. All those special Sneetches who had stars upon bars, and they couldn't be able to tell who was different and who was not. They didn't like that. How in the world will we know? They all frowned if which kind is what, or the other way around. And so then Mr. McBean, a very sly Mr. McBean, said, "Things are not as quite as bad as you think. So you don't know who's who. That is perfectly true. But come with me, friends. Do you know what I'll do?" And of course, for $10, he put them through another machine that removed their stars. And so now you've got a bunch of non-starred Sneetches again. And then they, with snoots in the air, they continued to parade about, and they opened their beaks and they let out a shout. "We know who is who, now there isn't a doubt. The best kind of Sneetches are Sneetches without." Then, of course, those with stars all got frightfully mad. To be wearing a star was now frightfully bad. All Mr. Sylvester McMonkey McBean did was cause more problems. And I wonder what could have happened if people had just sat down and talked to each other. I mean, here we have a bunch of people running around getting their stars put on and off and paying all sorts of money, and Mr. McBean is getting rich off the whole thing. But we're just sitting here and nobody's talking to each other. And then he laughs as he drove off and he said, "They'll never learn. No, you can't teach a Sneetch." Well, I want to believe that we can be taught. And he said, "But Mr. McBean was quite wrong. I'm quite happy to say that the Sneetches got really quite smart that day. The day that they decided that Sneetches are Sneetches and no kind of Sneetch is the best on the beaches. That day all the Sneetches forgot about stars and whether they had one or not upon bars." And here's what I would like to believe happened: that they actually talked to each other. They talked about, why would wearing a star be so special? Or what was it that makes you believe that Mr. McBean could change things for everyone? Why is it that you don't think Mr. McBean could change things for everyone? What is it that brought you to where you are today in your beliefs? Tell me more. Help me understand. And we do this from a place of what we call cultural humility. Cultural humility is a practice. It's when we talk to each other with a real sense of curiosity about where the other person came from, what developed their viewpoints. And sometimes I like to think that for some people, it's about what is it that you need that you don't feel that you're getting. So when it comes to even voting for different candidates, where you are on the spectrum of political beliefs often has to do with what people need or expect from their government. We see the same things in our church. People come into our church needing or wanting different things from the church. And so it's the same thing with the government, whether that be our local government, our state government, or our national government. We all have different things. And I think it's really important that we learn from each other what that is. Over the past 5 years, I've tried to read a number of different books that help me understand the different viewpoints. So that instead of saying, oh, that person's just completely wrong and my viewpoint is right, I could sit back and I could go, I can get that. I can understand how they may feel that way because it is so important for the economy where they live that certain things be done there. And they're just seeing it necessary that this happen for them for the security of them and their family. And then I also know that there are people who struggle so much. I've talked to a person of color who, after the last election, explained to me that they now feel that 50% of the people who voted don't see him as a valuable human being because they voted for someone who would continue to create policy that would harm him and his family. However, if I talk to those 50% that he's speaking of and ask them, why did you vote for this person? Those policies may had nothing to do with it, but it had other things that they were looking for that they needed. And so it's these conversations that are very important that we have. Over the next few weeks, I'm going to be asking people to come into conversation. And if you're someone who falls on a different part of the spectrum, I'm going to want to talk to you. I'm towards the left. I would love to have conversations with people who are on the right part of the spectrum. I don't like to go with red or blue because that is just too solid of a difference. Whereas I see all of us being at different places on the spectrum at different times. And I think it's important to have these conversations. So we're going to be doing that at St. Paul's, and there's more to come on that. So this morning or today, whenever you're watching this, I hope that you're able to sit back and think about how you can ask questions differently and make that a part of your Lenten practice. Just help me understand. Tell me how you came to that viewpoint. Don't preface it with, I think you're wrong, but, or once you get done telling me your viewpoint, I'm going to tell you my viewpoint, and I'm going to tell you why my viewpoint is better. No, you want to listen to someone's viewpoint and then take that and listen to it for a while and understand that everyone just wants to be treated like a human being. And that should be our goal. And that should be our Lenten practice. It should be our practice all year round. So I'm going to read this lovely prayer that was written by a woman named Louise. Who's a member of the Society for the Companions of the Holy Cross. And I want you just to sit back and listen to these words. Here we go. Actually, her name is Lynn Young. We live not only in divided families, communities, and countries, but also in a fractured world. We ask your grace that we may be reconciled to each other and to find peace and justice for all. We ask that our ears, minds, and hearts be open to hear what others have to say, especially when we profoundly disagree. Give us the patience to listen without immediately framing an argument. We ask for understanding if our overtures for reconciliation are rebuffed, and the strength and courage to keep working to find common ground. Remind us that Jesus came to reconcile us to God and to each other, and that he met resistance with faith in God's enduring love. Amen. I just invite you to imagine a world where we can still have different viewpoints and we don't have to agree on anything, but we can still accept each other in those differences. Thank you.
Imagine there's no heaven. It's easy if you try, and no hell below us, and above us is only sky. Imagine all the people living for today. You may say that I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. I hope someday you'll join us, and the world will live as one. Imagine there's no countries. It isn't hard to do. Nothing to kill or die for. No religion too. Imagine all the people living life for peace. And you may say that I'm a dreamer, but I am not the only one. I hope someday you'll join us, and the world will live as one. Imagine no possessions. I wonder if you can. No need for greed or hunger. A brotherhood of man. Imagine all the people sharing all the world. And you may say that I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. I hope someday you'll join us, and the world will live as one.